Hello, everybody, and welcome to my 5 days to go. 2020 election prediction. I will probably have one more final election prediction, either election day or the night before election day. I'm still deciding on that. And my final Senate, governor, and presidential elections are coming. Predictions are coming. However, I thought I would do one more pre-final presidential election prediction before I'm doing the actual presidential election prediction. So this is what I'm doing right now. My views may change. A lot can happen, as we all know, in 5 days. But this is my 5 days to go presidential election prediction. So let's get right to the video. Here we go. These are all going to be solid states. California, Hawaii. I'm leaving Washington out, but we're going to be going with things that are almost certainly going to Democrats. And there you go. 116 electoral votes that are safe for the Democrats. And now, Republican safe states are what you would normally expect. Leaving out Montana, it's been having some interesting polling from that state, so I will leave that state out for now, but it'll probably be likely Republican. And then Nebraska. Here we go. Oh, sorry. The third district is not safe. So, here we go. 88 to 116. And let's get right to likely Democrat states. Oh, I'm sorry. Forgot about Vermont. Likely Democrat states. I may forget about other things. Who the hell knows? Washington, Illinois, Delaware, New Jersey, and Connecticut, and Maine's first congressional district. I'll all consider as likely Democrat states, getting them to 176. Likely Republican, Montana, Nebraska third, Missouri, Indiana, and South Carolina are all going to be likely Republican states. So 176, and Alaska, sorry, 176 to 125. And now we're going to start talking in detail about the remaining electoral votes in these states. Because honestly, the rest of these states, I guess excluding really Oregon, because, it's just excluding Oregon, the rest of these states are going to be pretty close. I would say the rest of them will be in around 5 points, aside from a few of them. Oregon, maybe Colorado, New Mexico, and Virginia, but the rest of them are going to be within 5 points. So very important to talk about. But anyway, let's get right to it. For the lean Democrat states, it's going to be Oregon. It's been trending to the Republicans. I've said this in previous videos. Obama won 08 by 22 and 12 by 17. And Clinton in 16 won by 10 points. And then in the 2018 midterm elections, the governor only won by 6 points. So trending to the right. I'm putting it in the lean category, and I think it'll be similar to the lean category. Now, other lean category states are New Mexico, Colorado, and Virginia, all states that are trending to the left, or to the Democrats. That used to be considered toss-up states. Bush won New Mexico and Colorado in 2004, but now they have sort of solidified as a lean Democrat state. Virginia's very rapidly moving to the Democrats, but we'll get to that in a second. With New Mexico, it would be a likely Democrat state. However, Kerry Johnson is not running this election, which is going to make it a little bit more competitive for Donald Trump, especially since a lot of the libertarian people who voted for Gary Johnson, since he was the former governor of New Mexico, will come out and vote for Trump. Obviously, in my mind at least, they would pick Trump over Biden in that scenario. So let's see if there's any other likely states. Oh, Maine at large is a likely state or a lean state for the Democrats, as well as New Hampshire would be a lean state. Polling doesn't really suggest that Trump's doing too well in that state. However, I don't think Biden's going to win by 12 points. I don't think many people believe that. Possibly it could be 3 or 4 points as of now. And then I really don't want to touch the Rust Belt until we get to the tilt states. So I think that's it for lean Democrat states. Actually, you know what? I'll put Nevada as a lean Democrat state. People think that at least the Trump campaign thinks he's a shot at it. I really don't think he has a huge shot at it, especially since polls you tend to overestimate Republicans in that section of the country, at least. If you go back to 2016, you can see what I'm talking about. Trump was actually predicted to win Nevada with the RCP spread, and Clinton ended up winning it. In 2018, it was tied between Dean Heller and Jackie Rosen, and Jackie Rosen ended up winning by 5 points. Same thing with Arizona. However, I think it's going to be closer than Nevada, especially since Arizona has a very historic stance as a red state position, or whatever you want to call it. Anyway, let's get right to the lean Republican states. And the first one that I'm going to choose is going to be Texas. This state has somewhat spread out for Donald Trump. He's now up by comfortably 3 or 4 points in the polls. It does tend to overestimate the Republicans. However, it was actually looking a bit scarier for Trump earlier in the year, especially with polling data since Biden was leading in that, or not leading, but it was very close. Trump was only up by 1 or 2. Biden may have been a tie at some points, but it really has spread out, and Trump has now taken a pretty commanding lead in Texas, especially since it was closer earlier in the year. Also, I'm going to go with Georgia is going to be a lean Republican state. It has a Republican identity. I don't think it's going to lose at this election. I know Joe Biden's been campaigning in Georgia. However, I really just think that's a scare tactic for Trump, making it seem like Biden thinks he has the Rust Belt solidified. That could be true, but I don't think that Biden is really trying to get Georgia. He's probably should be focused more on Florida, North Carolina, states that he can win, and Arizona. Georgia, I think, is a bit of a reach this election. I know it's going to be close, maybe lean tilt, but I'm putting it with lean right now. Trump has taken the lead in Georgia, really. The RCP spread has him up by a little bit. Maybe it's a tie because of the new poll out today, but um, I do think Trump's going to end up winning Georgia. So, also, I'm going to go with Ohio and Iowa. These are two states that Trump did win by comfortable margins in 2016. I don't believe he'll win these states by as big of a margin as he did in 2016. However, I do believe he will win the states. In Iowa, he won by around 9.5 points, and in Ohio, he won by around 8.5 points. He hasn't really been campaigning there. He seems pretty comfortable with how he's going to perform in those states. Um, and, that is, I do think that he will win in those states. He'll probably win by 4 or 5 points in each of them, given his popularity in those states compared to other states, at least. And the final thing will be Maine 2nd Congressional District, and that is because of how, whatever you'd like to call it, that's because of same reasons for Iowa and Ohio. So it's 222 to 204 electoral votes. The remaining states are all going to be characterized by me as lean tilt Republican, tilt Republican and tilt Democrat. So just to go over the final states that I'm going to be characterizing are Arizona, Nebraska 2nd Congressional District, always Florida and North Carolina and Pennsylvania. And then these three states up here, really industrial Rust Belt states, Minnesota, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Okay, so let's get right to it. And I'm going to start with Tilt Democrat states and then move over to Tilt Republicans, but I might come back and forth. So for the first Tilt Democrat state, which I do think is going to go to Biden, is going to be the state of Arizona. This is a state that Trump did win in 2016. However, it has dramatically shifted towards the Democrats. In state legislatures, I do believe the Democrats now have control of the state legislatures. It looks like Mark Kelly is going to win his Senate seat there, or Martha McSally's Senate seat there at the moment. Kyrsten Sinema won in 2018 midterms. Polls tend to overestimate Democrats in these areas. Biden is even up in the polls right now, so that's not a good sign for Trump in Arizona. He was campaigning there 2 times today. However, I do not think he'll end up winning the state. I may be wrong. He may end up winning, which is why I'm going to have one more prediction with 1 day to go. But as of now, I do see Arizona going to Biden. Also, I see the state of Minnesota going to Biden. I do think that Trump is going to make it pretty significantly close. In 2016, Clinton only won it by 1.5 points. Obama won it by around 8 points. So that was a dramatic shift in favor of Republicans, especially in this industrial Rust Belt state. Now, I do believe Biden has a greater appeal in the Rust Belt. However, Trump also has an appeal in the Rust Belt. And Minnesota has been shifting more Republican, especially over the last few years, the last few elections at least. And I do believe Biden will only manage to gape it by a tilt margin. Now let's take a look at some tilt Republican states. I'm going to go with, first off, Nebraska 2nd Congressional District. That is actually always a toss-up state. Obama did win it in 2008. However, I think Trump will be able to hold on to it. He had a rally in Omaha. I think that was Nebraska 2nd Congressional District, Omaha, Nebraska. Obviously believing that it is a bit competitive, needs to get that district, needs to get the 2nd Congressional District to have a victory in that, because every electoral vote's important, but he did have a rally there, and I think he is really trying to garner the support there. He won it by around 2.5 points in 2016. I think the margin could get a little closer since it's Biden, not Clinton. However, I still see him winning Nebraska second. Also, tilt state is North Carolina. North Carolina and Florida are both states that do have a higher proportion of Republicans compared to Democrats. It's a slightly higher proportion. That's why it's always close. However, it usually tends to edge out Republicans. That's why Romney won. That was the one major toss up state Romney won in 2012. He did lose Florida. That's because North Carolina has slightly more Republicans than it does with Florida. But same concept, at least in those two states. Trump will end up winning it. He really has not been campaigning there. He really has felt a bit confident there. Biden really hasn't even been campaigning there recently. They may have, both campaigns may have a final stretch in that state, but as of now, I do have North Carolina tilting to Trump and also Florida tilting to Trump. This is really something that I've maintained pretty much throughout every single election prediction I've made. Florida will go to Trump, and honestly, that is because of trends, especially in 2018 when Rick Scott and Ron DeSantis won both the Senate and governor seats in a blue wave election year, because it was a midterm election year when the Republicans had a trifecta in government before, so that's usually considered a blue wave election year. However, the Republicans managed to, I guess, hold the Republican governorship, but just move from Rick Scott to Ron DeSantis, and then flip a Democrat Senate seat from Bill Nelson to Rick Scott. So major gains in Florida. Trump won it in 2016, and Rubio won a seat in 2016 by almost 7-8 points. Trump's up with Hispanic votes. He's up with Cubans and Venezuelans, people who live in Florida. He is down a little bit with elderly support. However, I do think he'll manage to get a similar amount of the support of elderly people as he did in 2016. Maybe slightly less because Biden's running, but I still think he'll be able to carry the state by a tilt margin. That's saying about maybe 1.5 points, at least for mine. And then North Carolina, maybe 2 points, maybe 1.5. So North Carolina, a little bit more than Florida, but he'll be able to carry both of those states. So now I'm going to go back to tilt Democrat states, and I'm going to characterize Michigan as a tilt Biden state. Polling data is not very good for Republicans at the moment in Michigan. Um, Biden obviously has pretty good lead over Trump. Now, I don't believe, and I don't think anybody believes that Biden is going to end up winning Michigan by 15, 14 points. But I do see him winning the state, maybe by 2 or 3 points, and that's because of he does have a greater Rust Belt appeal than Hillary Clinton, and yeah, and that's why I believe so. And they did win the governorship with what was her name again? Oh my God, she's so prominent. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting her name right now. I have her face in my head at the moment, though. Jeez, what was her name? The governorship. I can't tell right now. I'm really trying to remember. Um, Kristen Whitmer. That was her name. So anyway, she won by around 10 points in Michigan, but I do think that it's going to be a lot closer, especially in a presidential election year. Now let's get to tilt Republican states and tilt them. So I'm going to still okay. So 259, 249. This is really when it's going to get down to who's going to win the election. And right now, I'm going to have Trump winning Pennsylvania. That's going to get him to 269 electoral votes. That'll essentially give him the win because Republicans have control of, whatever it is called. But I do think that he will win Pennsylvania. Polls have pretty narrow in Pennsylvania at the moment. Republicans do tend to overestimate the polls in the Rust Belt states and northeastern states. And I think I'll end up taking Pennsylvania. Another poll had him up 2, and then another poll, and there's a Trafalgar poll, which usually predicts these states correctly. Somehow, in Pennsylvania, had it as a tie and Trump +1. So he does look pretty good in Pennsylvania. And he had 3 rallies there the other day. Definitely feeling like that's a state that he needs to win. Campaigning there very crucially, and I think he will end up winning it. And that also goes for Wisconsin, the cheese state. That'll give him a absolute majority with 279 electoral votes, making him, reelected president. Same reasons as Pennsylvania. The poll with Biden up 17 points is just not true. um, it's just not true. I don't really take that into consideration because most people know Biden's not up 17 points. But anyway, final election prediction 279 259. Trump wins the presidency again, gets reelected, and that's my prediction for 5 days out. And I'm going to shift all the states to one color, something that, I like to do so we can look at what the new map will look like. A little bit different. Biden picks up Arizona and Michigan, but Trump holds on to the other West Belt states. And yes, and Florida. So here we go. Forgot New Hampshire. Okay. This is the map. 279, 259. A little bit more blue, but Trump manages to continue to win the election. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. 5 days to go until election day. Want to make that clear. 5 days to go until election day. So I'm getting a bit anxious, as I've said every video, but I'm trying to stay calm. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe and watch my other videos. I'll probably be coming out with a lot more videos in the next days to come. Anyway, have a nice day and enjoy the video.